Hi everyone, and welcome to Collaborating with Office 365 and SharePoint Online. I'm Sharon Weaver. So first, just a little bit about me. My name is Sharon Weaver. I am the CEO of an IT consulting company called Smarter Consulting. I am an adjunct professor and trainer at my local college. I do both private and public classes. I teach Microsoft applications, business analysis, Six Sigma, and leadership. I've been working with software, designing, developing, managing, pretty much every role you can imagine for over 25 years. And about 15 years ago, a little over 15 years ago, I got introduced to this fun little application called SharePoint, and basically I've been working with it ever since. I've recently been accepted into the Microsoft Regional Director Program. I am a Microsoft certified trainer, a Six Sigma black belt, and I'm a certified business and systems analyst. After this is done, if you want to get a hold of me, feel free to email me at sweaver@smarter-consulting.com. Follow me on Twitter at Sharon E. Weaver, or simply pick up your phone and scan this QR code, and you will be able to get a contact us form, and you can send it to me and ask me any questions you want. All right, so today we've got a lot of stuff that I can go through. I'm going to try and go through it fairly quickly. So hopefully having this video will be helpful because you can go back to the parts if you maybe missed something and you can go back and look at it again. But I'm going to start by explaining Office 365 groups and why they're so important, and they're the basis of pretty much everything in collaboration. Talk a little bit about SharePoint Online, some of the neat things you can do with it. OneDrive for Business, how it fits into all of this, a little bit of an overview on Microsoft Teams, and just a little tiny bit of Microsoft Planner, just enough to get you interested so you can go check it out. All right, so first and foremost, if you attended my other session, what is Microsoft 365? What is Office 365? I went over this a little bit. If not, I'd like to give you another overview in this session just so you can understand, considering that groups are kind of the backbone to everything. So Microsoft 365 Groups, it's a backend service that works with the existing Microsoft 365 tool set. So basically, it's a thing that allows you to collaborate with other people whenever you're working on documents, spreadsheets, project plans, meetings, or even sending emails. It lets you choose the people that you want to collaborate with and then set up resources to share with that group. You can share things like an Outlook inbox, an Outlook calendar, SharePoint document library. You can add and remove members to the group, which will automatically give them access to the tools that they need. In addition, this replaces the distribution lists and shared mailboxes, and it can be public or private. Public meaning anybody in the organization can access it and become a member, or private where you have to invite or add people yourself. In addition, guests can be invited to collaborate, so guests are considered as people outside of your organization, as long as it's allowed and configured properly by your IT administration group. So basically, to start with, all you got to do to set up a Microsoft group is create a new group and give it a name. And you want to make sure and give it a name that makes sense. There's several different ways to create a Microsoft group. You can create one in Outlook, you can create one in SharePoint, you can create one in Teams, you can create one in pretty much any resource that's going to be associated with the Microsoft group. There's more details on that. If you go out and look on the web, there's lots of places that'll talk to you about setting up Microsoft groups. But the first thing you want to do is set up your group, give it a name. You're going to choose whether it's a public group or a private group. So remember, we talked about the idea that a public group is anybody in your organization. A private group is only limited to certain members. You're going to add people from your organization and maybe invite guests from outside your organization if it's allowed and it's set up properly. The really nice thing about groups is it allows you to put people into something where then you guys can collaborate together and you can access resources. So what will happen is after you create your group and you put your people into it, you will then be able to use that group to access different applications. So let's talk a little bit about SharePoint Online, and I'm going to give you a demo instead of going through a slide deck because slide decks are kind of boring. So I'm going to walk you through how to get into SharePoint and some of the things that you can do with it. All right. So first of all, if you're ever wanting to get to all of your Office applications and you really can't remember how, if you just type in www.office.com. If you aren't logged in, it'll ask you to sign in with your Office credentials. If you are logged in, it should just pop up and find you. You'll know which account you're logged in with by simply going up here to your initials or your photo, and you can click on it and it will tell you exactly which account you're logged in with right here under your name. Most people only have one account, but for those of you who have a couple, sometimes it's hard, especially if you have a personal account and a work account, to remember which account is which. Once you've logged into office.com, you can see that a lot of my applications are up here. What will happen is the more frequently you use these applications, the more they'll kind of float to the top, kind of like search. And so when you use them, the ones that you use the most frequently will pop up here right at the top. In this case today, we're going to talk about SharePoint. So I'm going to pull up the SharePoint icon, which is going to take us to the SharePoint landing page. The SharePoint landing page allows us to see all of our SharePoint content in one place. So one of the things I want you to notice is that there's only a few sites here, but if there was a lot of sites, it'd be difficult to find what I was looking for. So what I want to do is I want to try to be able to favorite things so that I can find them. Notice over here on my left panel, I have a following option, I have a recent option, and I have a featured links. So for following, you can simply follow a site by clicking this little star at the top. And you can either do it on this page, like that, and it'll just put it up under your following, or I'm going to unfollow it, take it off. If I go into my site by clicking on my site, notice up at the top right, there's a not following option, and I could also click it here. So on any SharePoint site, you should have a following and a not following. I'm going to go back to the SharePoint landing page by clicking up here in the banner where it says SharePoint, and it'll take me back to the SharePoint landing page, and you can see that these are the sites that I'm following, and they've got the little star next to them. It also shows me the sites that I've recently accessed, so that maybe if I've just been on something and I can't remember where it is, I can see that. This featured links option is only available to administration. So if you're not an administrator of your SharePoint tenant, then you probably won't have access to change this. You'll only have access to see this. If you are an admin and you want to put things out here that people can find, you can simply click add. Add in a link, and then people can find it. It doesn't even have to be part of your tenant. And now notice I've got this link. And so I can simply click on it and it will take me to that location. So it's a nice way if you want to do some little quick links right here on the SharePoint landing page. Another new feature that's in SharePoint is this news from sites. So you'll notice that news from the sites that I have access to will roll up right here. And to be able to see it right here, it just has to be on one of the SharePoint sites. So if I want to go to Corporate Challenge and I want to post some news, I can go in here and say I want to add a news site. I'm going to create a brand new news page. Maybe I want to post something about a meeting to talk about a topic. I can then add information to my news page. I can change the way the header looks. I can also add images, which I can get from online or things that I have on my site. So maybe I want to do a web search. All right, so I can put information in here. And then I can post my news. What's going to happen is it will create a news post right here. It'll put it in the activity in my site, but it will also roll it up to the news here eventually. We'll keep an eye out for it in there. Once we do have news up in here, we can read the news or we can bookmark it. So if I want to look at the news, I can simply click on the news post. It will take me directly to the news post. And maybe I want to save it for later so I can look at it later. On the news post, you see the Save for Later icon. I'm also going to go back to the landing page. Oh, there's our cycling post. And you can select this Save for Later. When we save it for later, notice it puts it over here in the left navigation so that I can read that news piece later when I get the chance. After I've read it, I can simply check it and it'll take it off of there. Pretty handy little trick, huh? All right, so we've got some information on our news page. We can see the sites that we're interested in. Maybe we want to be able to create a new site from here. If you have admin access or the button has not been taken off of here. So if you don't see either of these buttons, it just means that your IT staff has decided that they don't want to allow people to do that. You can reach out and talk to them, or you may just not be able to create sites. In the meantime, if you can create sites, you should be able to see this create site option up here at the top. Oops, go back. And if I click on the create site option, it should give me two options. I can create what's called a communication site, which is not connected to an Office 365 group. It simply allows me to create kind of an old-fashioned styled publishing site or intranet site, or I can create a team site which is connected to a group. Notice down here it says connected to an Office 365 group. If I create a communication site, I can select a template of the type of site that I'd like to use. It even tells me if I've got a lot of information like news and events, if I want to showcase something, or if I just simply want a blank site to start with, I can choose one of these topics. So I can pick this, and then maybe I want to create an intranet site. Notice that we'll create the URL for me, and this site already exists. So it's going to rename it. It'll let me use that, but that name already exists. So therefore, I might consider going to make sure that this is actually what I want to do. I can select the language that I want this to display information in. I can put a description about the site, and when I'm finished, it will create my site for me. Let's call this another intranet so that we make sure it's separate from our other one. Notice down here when it goes to create my URL, it says, oh, this one's available because it's different. So I'm going to go ahead and finish just to set this up so I can show you what it looks like. Notice how it generates me more of a publishing site. Out of the box, it comes up with this nice fancy header, some news, some events, and some document information. Right there, all out of the box for me. If I go back to my SharePoint, then I will be able to see all of my team sites right here. The other option that I could have done was to create a team site. And if I create a team site, it will also generate an Office 365 group and all of the resources that go with that. So if I create another team site, so for example, I've got my corporate challenge site, but I want to create someone specifically for cycling. That's available. The name is available. I'm going to limit it to only people who have access to this site. And I'm go ahead and say next. Now, the nice thing is because it's connected to an Office 365 group, it's going to ask me, is there anybody else you like to add to this? I'm going to go ahead and add Jonathan because I know he likes to do cycling. And we also know that Lee likes to cycle, and so we're going to add him as well. What's going to happen, it'll go ahead and set up this site. I can add stuff onto it right from there. And it already gives me documents and a OneNote notebook and some things that come with it. I'm going to go back to my landing page by clicking on SharePoint at the top. And now maybe I want to add something to my site. So I'm going to go to my demo site because I want to make something new and show you how to do that. Maybe I want to add a page to one of my existing sites. To add a page, right here on, as long as you are on the home menu, if you click on this new dropdown, you can make pretty much anything from right here. I could make a list, a library, but in this case, I want to make a new page. When I make a new page, it's very similar to when I made a news post. I can have a blank page. I can use one of the pre-built templates. In this case, this one's the visual template. It's got some images. Or I can do a text, which is primarily text-based. These are just templates, and after they're done, I can edit them in whatever way I want. So let's say in this example, we want to make some images, so we can go ahead and create this page. We can go down and update the text. We can update our images, change them. Maybe we want to put an image in here for fun. Update some of the images on the page by editing. See the little pencil right here? We can change it right here. Look for different options. Select one, and it'll automatically update it for us. If, for example, we want to have text over our image, we can simply click the on, and it'll add text right here. And then we can say something about it. When you're done, you simply need to click the X, it'll save it, and it will add it to this page. Once we're all done, we can save this page as a draft if we'd like, or we can publish it for people to see. So it depends on if you're ready to make it to go live to other people, or if you simply want to save it and continue working on it. Once we're ready for everybody to see it, we can simply publish it. And after a few seconds, it will roll it out to the site. All right, let's go back. It's going to ask me, now that I've published this page, do you want me to add it to the navigation? Do you want to post it as news, email it to somebody, or save it as a template? And I can do any of these things. So maybe I want to add this to the navigation so that people can find it when they're looking for it. I also want to post it as news so people know that I did it. I could email it to people or save it as a template for later, but I don't really need to. I'm going to close this now. And notice now that I've got a link for it, I can go back home. It posted it as a news item, and it added the link to the left. From that point on, if I want to edit my page, I just simply click on the page, click Edit, make any changes that I want to change, and then click Update. And it will automatically be streamlined everywhere. If I want to add a web part to the page, I can edit my page and maybe I want something else in this particular section, and all I have to do is hover, and a little blue plus will come up. And that's to be able to add a web part. And when you hover over the blue plus, you'll notice the little pop-up says add a new web part. And when I click on that, it's going to tell me here are the web part options that you have. What would you like to see? And maybe I've decided that on this one, I don't want this image to be here anymore. I'd like to move this and I'd like to change it. So I'm going to drag this down here. Let's just get rid of it. We'll add a new one. And I want to add a Yammer feed in here instead. Notice that Yammer has its own web part. It'll say, who do you want to add? And I can pop it in there. Or maybe I want to add a different image, or I want to add a map, or I want to add a countdown timer to something. So I want to count down, maybe I want to count down to July 4th. All right, so we'll celebrate Independence Day on July 4th. I can go ahead and leave that there, and I can update my page, and then it'll be right there. So that's how you add a web part. Maybe I want to add a list or library to my site, in which case all I have to do, remember, is go back home. And I can click on the new option, and there's a list and there's a library option, and I can make either one. If I want to make a new library, I can just simply add new library. And maybe I want a library to store my documents in. And all I have to do is say create, and there it is, already ready to go. And then I can add items to that document. I can add items to that library or list. All right. Once I'm in this list or library, I can add columns directly to it. I don't have to go into my list or library settings anymore. I can just simply click on add column right here. So it already gives me the name and the modified, but maybe I want some additional information because in this case, I want to store all of my party documents, but I want to know which holiday it is. So maybe I want to add a choice column. Know which holiday it is that I'm storing the documents for. Let's call this Independence Day. Maybe we've got Labor Day. Maybe we've got Thanksgiving. We've got Christmas. And maybe we've got New Year's. All right, so I can put anything in here I want. I can save it. And then whenever I add documents to this, it'll automatically allow me to choose the holiday for that. So let's say I want to add some new documents in here. I can simply click on new. I can even make the document directly from here. So let's say we want to have we want to be able to have some stuff for the Independence Day party. I'm going to copy this information and I can update the file name right here. I don't have to go anywhere else. Just paste it right in there. It'll automatically save it for me. And then I can close this. Let's add a few more things. So let's add another one for Thanksgiving. Once again, I can just click right here and paste it in, click away, and it'll save it right there, and I can close it. See how it's just making those right here? But here's what's really neat is now that I've made these items, I select that item. And if I go to this little information panel up here with circle with the eye, and I scroll down that holiday column that we created, I can actually do a drop down and select the holiday I want. And then let's leave that information panel open and select this document instead and do the same thing. And the really cool part is now these are in here, they have information, but more importantly, I can click on this holiday column and check it out. I can already do things with it. So let's add a couple more. Just so we can see how this works. Let's make sure we assign it to the right holiday. And now I've got 2 for Thanksgiving and 1 for Independence Day. I could group these immediately by holiday if I wanted to. Or I can ungroup them by unchecking that. Maybe I want to filter it. I can filter, and any of the options that have selections will be right here. And so maybe I only want to see things for Thanksgiving, or I only want to see things for Independence Day. It'll make those choices for me. And then if I want to clear that filter, I click on that column again, and I can simply clear the filter by clicking Clear All, and then refresh. Uh-oh, it didn't click. Filter, Clear All, Apply. There we go. Take it back. All right. Neat and easy to be able to use columns to be able to sort, filter, and group. Now, let's say, for example, we really liked that. We can always save it as a view. So let's say, for example, we want to group this by holiday. Super easy. We don't want to have to go make it. And now I can go to my view, and I want to save this view as grouped by holiday. Save. And now I've got my all documents view, and I don't need to worry about it because now I have my group by holiday view as well. All right, while I'm in here, I can share a document. I'm just going to go back to all documents. All I have to do is I can either hover and click this little share icon right here, or select the document or documents I want to share and click the share icon. When I do that, it'll tell me people in this particular organization with this link can edit it. I can share it directly with somebody, send them a message. I can copy the link. I can share it directly with Outlook. I can also click on this option up here and change how this works, where I only want to share it with people that already have access, specific people, and whether or not I want them to be able to edit it or whether I want them to be able to download it. I can limit that all right here in the link settings. And then once I do that, that link will have those permissions set into it. If I want to open a document, I can simply click on the document title and it will open. Or I can click up here on the open in browser or app, or I can click the 3 little dots, open, browser, or app. If I decide to open it in the browser, I do have the option of co-authoring. If anybody else is in this document, they'll show up right here at the top right by my picture, and it will tell me if anybody else is in here editing and who they are, and it'll also have a highlighted icon down here to show me what they're editing. All right. So that's a highlight of SharePoint Online. I'm going to show you a couple of other things because I don't have enough time to be able to go through everything today, but I do want to show you a few other things that are kind of neat. So one of the things that's built into Office 365 is OneDrive. OneDrive is backed by SharePoint, but it's a customized place to store your documents. So if I click on my OneDrive, it'll open here in a minute. So I can go in here to my OneDrive and notice that I can access my files right here. And right now I really don't have a whole lot. Maybe I want to put something in my OneDrive, or maybe I want to move something out of my OneDrive. One of the really neat things in SharePoint is that I can move and copy things around. So if I go back to my SharePoint site where I just made all of my files, I can go in here to my files, to my party documents, and maybe I want to work on this before I let everybody share it. So I can simply select one of these documents, and notice up here on the ribbon, I can either move it or copy it. In this case, I want to move it because I want to work on it before I share it with everybody. So I'm going to move it, and notice that my OneDrive is one of the things that pops up along with the other SharePoint sites that I have access to. In this case, I want to move it to my OneDrive, so I'm just going to say my OneDrive. It's going to say, where do you want it? I'm going to go ahead and make a new folder while I'm at it for my party documents that I want to work on. And then I'm going to select that. And now it'll tell me it's in my OneDrive in party documents. And I'm just going to say, okay, can you move it here, please? One of the things that you're going to notice is that because we've added this holiday information, it says if I move this, it's going to lose some properties. So I want to go ahead and move it, even though it's going to take it out of here. Give it a minute, and then it'll just move it over there for me. And what's really nice is check it out. It's gone here. I'm going to go ahead and refresh just to be safe. But there's my party documents, and there's my file that I was working on. I can upload documents into here. I can upload files. I can upload folders. I can add new items, just like I did in the other one. I can also drag and drop things directly into here. Or, like you saw, I can move or copy items from other SharePoint locations directly into here. Super easy. All right. Once I'm in my OneDrive and I have my items, very similar to what you saw in SharePoint, I can simply click on the item. It will give me the option here to open, to share it, to copy the link, to download it, all kinds of fun stuff. Or I can click on my ... and it will give me a list of options of things I can do. I can hover over it to see the details, or all kinds of options, depending on what I'm trying to do with that document. I can also create new folders if I want to organize things. Same as in SharePoint, I can share this file by clicking on the item and clicking the share icon. And exactly like the same thing before, I can share it with somebody by typing their email in right here, selecting them. I can edit how I want this link to work, whether I want them to be able to edit it. I can set an expiration date for when this file will end. I can set a password on it, and if I don't allow editing, I can also block them from downloading it as well. Once I've shared this item with somebody, so let's say, for example, I'm going to go back in here and share this with Jonathan. Once you've shared that item, now if I want to see who this item is shared with, I can simply click on the ... and there's a manage access option here. And it will show me who I've shared it with. And I've sent this link out, so there is a link that is giving access. There's direct access to me. And if I don't want anybody to access this anymore, I can simply get rid of this link by clicking this little X where it says remove link. Notice underneath here, it says that it's currently shared with Jonathan. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this remove the link, and now it says there are no sharing links for this item. So it's easy to share and easy to unshare. All right, one of the neat things about this is that you can actually use this in Office apps as well. One of the things is when you open it in your client applications, you'll notice that you'll be able to do a file save as, and that file save as will give you the options from SharePoint or OneDrive to be able to save it. You can also access your OneDrive in Teams, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. I'll show you how that works. Okay, let me pop this PowerPoint back up for a minute. Catch us up. I've got this PowerPoint deck in here that I'll send out, so you guys will have access to it afterwards. Let's catch up to where we are. Okay, so we talked about the Office 365 groups. We talked about SharePoint and OneDrive. We talked about the applications. So we've added our group, we've added our people, and we've given them access to some things that are out there, including SharePoint. And now we want to use Teams. What's really neat is that Teams actually joins directly with our group, so that basically the group and the team are one thing, and they work together. And then you can access any of these things through Teams. So let's go over Teams just a little bit, and I'll show you how this works. I'm going to pull my demo back up. All right, so to get to Teams, you can use the client application, the online application, or the mobile application. So in this case, I've gone back to my office.com homepage. I can simply click on Teams from here. And at a high level, I'm going to show you what there is around Teams. So first of all, a Teams is just a collection of people, conversation, files, and tools, whereas a channel is going to be a subtopic that's dedicated to a project or a specific topic. So the team is where the people are stored, and then each of these channels is the different types of things that they can have access to talk about. So for example, general comes with every single team. So general is basically kind of like the lobby or the primary communal area where everybody can hang out and all talk together. And then you can also add additional channels that have specific topics for people who are interested in specific things. You can have public or private channels. So when I go to add a channel, I can choose if I want that channel to be accessible to everybody on the team or if I want to limit who has access to that. If I make a private channel, it'll have a little lock symbol on it, and only the people that are inside of the channel that have access to the channel will be able to see it. One note is you do have to be part of a team to be able to have access to that channel. Once you're inside of a team or a channel, notice that you've got these things up at the top that are called tabs, just like in your browser, and they change from team to team and channel to channel because these are relevant to this topic. So in this case for bowling, we have a conversation, we have some files, not any in here, and we have some wiki information. But once I go to cycling, there's more information because there's more people participating. So if I go to files, there's some info. There's also a document and a link and a video, all being shared right here in Teams in this one channel. So if I'm part of Corporate Challenge and I'm interested in the cycling, I can specifically go here and I can find information that's relevant to me specifically for that topic. Once you've got stuff in here, you can start chatting and talking to people. And one of the things that you can do is you can actually mention people so that they get a notification. So maybe I want to notify Jonathan or notify Lee that I want to tell them something. When I do that, it will notify them that there's a message and it will show up in their activity. The activity icon is up here on the top left. When I click on that, it's going to tell me all of the people that have sent me messages, commented about me, or done something that has something to do with me. If I want to see the things I've done, I can simply click on my activity and it'll show the history of things where I have posted or I have responded. Once I'm inside of here, if I want to look for something specific because I can't find it, I can simply go up to search. And maybe I want to find something specific. And when I start typing, it's going to help me look for the things that I want. Another thing I can do is I can search through my feed. And it'll search for keywords that I use right here. To be able to help me find it. Oops. Let's say, there we go. Narrowed it down. And then I can simply click on the post that I'm interested in and it will highlight it in yellow so I can find it. Another cool thing is once I do find that, if I want to try to remember it, because it's something that's interesting for me to remember, I can click the little ... up here, and there's a save this message option. Remember, kind of like in SharePoint, and then notice up here at the right it says it was saved. I can click on my icon at any time, click on my saved messages, and it'll show me all of the things that I wanted to remember so that I can go back and find them easily. All I have to do is click on it, it'll take me to it and highlight it. There you go, that one's yellow, and this one's yellow. See, it takes me right to it. Interesting, huh? All right, so if I want to manage what notifications I get, I can simply go up here to my photo or my initials, and I can click on settings. And once you click on settings, there's a notification option, and you can decide what you get. Banner and email basically means, banner means pop-up. So if you want the pop-ups and you want the emails whenever you're mentioned, what will happen is if you have the application open, it will do a pop-up. And if the application is closed, you will get an email. You can select to get no matter what. Maybe I only want a pop-up, and that's only if it's open. Or maybe I only want to show it in my activity feed and I don't want to get notified at all. You can decide for each of these things whether or not you get notified. Remember, right up here on your profile, click settings, and then notifications, and select which notifications you'd like to get. You can chat with people privately or in a group. All you have to do is click on the chat icon over here on the left. And if I want to chat with somebody, I can simply go up here to where it says new chat, this little square with a pencil, and start typing somebody's name in. And start having a message with them. I can also talk to multiple people at once. And if I already have a message going with them, I can click on it, or I can start to talk to those people. And just like on your phone, if you have a history with them, it'll pop up for you. If it is a private conversation, and I'm talking to that person, and I want to add another person, up here on the top right next to the call and video is an add people option. And if I want to add somebody to this group, what will happen is Teams knows that this is a private conversation. And so it's going to switch to the group and it will leave that private conversation history alone. If I'm in a group message and I want to add somebody, when I go to add them, it's going to ask me, Do you want to include the chat history or not? So I can include all of the chat history. I can include the history from a certain number of days, or I don't have to include it at all. So this is only happens when you're in a group conversation. If you're in a private conversation, it will automatically leave it alone and create a new history. So don't worry, your one-on-one chats are safe. I showed you how to mention somebody. So if you want to create a new team, all you have to do is click on the Teams icon right here. And at the very bottom, there's a Join or Create option. And you can either join a public team. Notice how because this is public, I can just simply join it. I can join a private team as long as I have the code, which my team owners can create for me, or they could invite me to a team, and then it would automatically show up over here, or I can create a brand new team. You can create a brand new team from scratch, in which case it will create a team and the team will create a group for you. Or if you already have an existing Office 365 group that you've created in another application, you can click the Create From Office 365 Group, and then simply find the group that we created earlier. Remember when we created the SharePoint site? It created that cycling group for us. So we could tie that back to a team if we really wanted to. Or we could create a team based on another team. So maybe we have a team that we already like, and it will copy the apps, the settings, and the channels to the new team and make us a new one, kind of like a template. If I want to manage an existing team, all I have to do is find the team I want to manage, hover over it, click the ... that's next to it. As long as I'm an owner, I will be able to edit pretty much anything in the team. If I'm not an owner and I'm only a member, there are certain things I can't do. I can't add or change members of the team, and there's certain settings that I can't access as a member also. But as an owner, I can simply click the Manage Team option. I can add members and guests. I can change them from members to owners. If they're a guest, remember that they can't be an owner. I can manage the channels for this particular team. There's a few settings that I can get to in here for this team. I can see analytics for the team, and I can see any apps that are being used by this particular team. Maybe, for example, I want to go into the settings and I want to add a team picture. I can change that right here. And maybe I want to put a different image in here. I can also add a channel right here by clicking the ... like I showed you before. Give it a name, a description, and do I want everybody on the team to access it, or do I want to limit it to certain people within the team? The other option is once I create it, I can decide if it automatically shows up on people's channels list or if it's hidden on their team. A lot of people ask me about team meetings. You can set up a team meeting pretty easily. All you got to do is click on the calendar icon. And then up on the right, I have the option to create a new meeting right here in Teams. You could also create a meeting in Outlook, add a Teams meeting to it, but sometimes it's just as easy to make it in here. Give it a title, add the people who are coming. One of the options too is you can add it directly to a channel, so it'll show up in the channel, and then people will be able to click on the meeting directly from the channel as well. Notice that I do have my scheduling assistant option up here, so maybe I want to add a few people. Oops. I'm going to add the people who I know are interested, but I'm also going to go ahead and add the cycling channel just in case there's somebody that I didn't catch directly. I can make this meeting and set it for whenever I want. Or I can look up here at the scheduling assistant and see when these people are available. And I can add additional attendees right here or add locations. just like I do in Outlook. Add some notes, and then I can simply send this and it will go on to the calendar. When I make this, it'll add it to the calendar here, and also it'll show up on the channel. Let's let that go ahead and get set up. I could also meet immediately if I really wanted to, and I can add people to this. Or I can create a live event, which is where I have an audience and I'm doing more like a webinar style presentation. Notice this meeting is here now, but check this out when I go back to Teams and I go to cycling. This meeting has been scheduled inside the channel, and if I want to join this meeting, I can simply click on it right here, and there's a join button, and it gives me all the information, even if I'm not invited, as long as I'm part of the team and as long as I'm watching the channel. Now maybe I want to share files out with my team. So in the cycling option, I can click on the Files tab. And if I want to share files out to the team or I want to use files, I can upload a file from somewhere. I can create a new file just like I did in SharePoint, or if I want to go directly to SharePoint, there's an Open in SharePoint option, which will take me directly to my SharePoint site and my document library in this particular channel. So it'll take me right there. Maybe I also want to use a Google Drive or a Dropbox because this is outside of my organization and Corporate Challenge wants to share something with us. I can simply click Add Cloud Storage, select the type of content that they're sharing with me, log in, and it will automatically connect it to that team. Just remember, anything that's outside of Microsoft is still going to require its own login and credentials. Another thing I told you before was that you can access your OneDrive in here. Over here on this left navigation, there's a Files tab. And if I click on that, notice I can access my OneDrive right here. And there's those documents that I moved in and out before. And if I click on them, I can move and copy them back in. So maybe once I'm done, if I wanted to copy it back over, I can actually browse all the teams and channels that are available right here in Teams. Or if I can't find what I'm looking for, I can open it in OneDrive. And then maybe I want to find something that I couldn't find in Teams. So it's pretty nifty because I can access it right here. Also notice that Microsoft isn't the only option again in here. I can simply click on this Add Cloud Storage down at the bottom. Maybe I want to be able to access my Google Drive or Dropbox. And once I click on this, I can simply log in and access it right here. And it'll make me log in. All right, the last thing that I told you I would show you is Microsoft Planner. So let's pull up catch you up through all these slides. See how much more fun it is on a demo than in slides. All right, so Microsoft Planner is a new application. It's designed for team task organization, kind of similar to something like Trello. You can create plans, tasks, share files in it. You can organize it on a board using buckets. And it allows you to do some kind of cool things with scheduling. All Office 365 groups automatically have a planner. You can create a plan from scratch that's not associated to a group. You can also create additional plans, so you can have multiple plans per groups. You can add a tab in Teams to see your plan, and you can also view it in Outlook. In my deck in here, if you want to go to this URL, there's a really fun example of using Planner to build the Death Star if you want to see Planner in action. You can access this via the Planner Hub, which I'll show you here in a second. Let me pull that up. So all I have to do is go back to myoffice.com. And I don't see it on here, so I probably haven't been there very recently. So I'm going to click on All Apps. And when I click on All Apps, there's my Planner option. I could have also searched for it and it would have found it. So I'm going to click on Planner. And what that's going to take me to is the Planner Hub. And so the Planner Hub shows me all the plans that I have access to that are in here. I can use them on my app if I want, or I can access them right in here. And once I've created a plan, I can then share it throughout all of Office 365. So let's click on this plan and see what it looks like. I've got buckets that I can give different types of buckets to. And then when I make a task, I can now go in and do details on this task. I can assign it to somebody. I can change buckets, which see I just made. I can give it a progress, a priority, a start date and a due date. I can add checklist options, I can add attachments, and I can add comments. And once this is all done, I can save it and it'll pop right in there. The really neat thing about Planner is that I can drag and drop things from bucket to bucket. And then watch, if I go back into my task, see how my bucket automatically changed for me. The other thing is I have this nice schedule view. And if it's not on the schedule yet, maybe I want to put it on the schedule because I know when it's due. And sometimes you have a lot of tasks and you don't want to have to go in and update every single one. I can simply drag this and say this one's due on Monday and this one's due on Friday. And what will happen is now if I go back to my board, it automatically puts a due date in there and it filled it out for me. So it's kind of nice to be able to do that or to see everything on a schedule. When I'm on my schedule view, I can click on the ... and I can view this plan. Go back to the board. I can see this. Once again, I can drag these around. Up here on the right, you can see I can add people to access this plan. I can filter which tasks I see by all kinds of fun stuff. Or I can group by different things. So instead of grouping it by bucket, maybe I want to group it by due date. Or maybe I want to group it by progress. Or group it by assigned to. And I can change that view really easily. The other thing that I really like about this is if you click on this charts option, it gives you this really fancy dashboard that you don't have to do much for that tells you the status of all of the tasks for this particular plan. All right here in a really nice, easy to read dashboard. So this is Planner, and then maybe I want to go into Teams because I want to be able to access this. So I'm going to go to Teams. I'm going to go to HR. And notice that I can add a plan right here by clicking this tab and clicking on Planner. And it'll ask me, which plan do you want to see? And if I have an existing plan, I can choose it right here, or I could create a new plan to add. I already have this in here, so I'm going to click on it so you can see what it looks like. But right here in Teams, I can see the tasks that are due. I can see the charts and I can see the schedule, and I can also work with it. So maybe I'm in here and I'm watching and this task has been updated and it's no longer due on the 15th. It's now due on the 16th. I can simply drag it, click on that task, and it'll update the date for me. Nifty, right? So that's a little bit about Planner. I encourage you to look at it and play with it and kind of see what you think. Well, that's about all the time we have today. I'm gonna pull up my presentation. And one of the things that I would encourage you to do is if you go to support.office.com and it's actually /training, you can actually go in there and you can find out information about pretty much any of the applications. There's a lot of training for that. I'm going to take you all the way back to the beginning. Look at all those slides we have. I'll send those slides over to Dave so you guys can access them from them. And once again, if you want to get a hold of me, all you have to do is email me at sweaver@smarter-consulting.com. Follow me on Twitter at Sharon E. Weaver, or scan this QR code and you can get a hold of us. Send me any questions you have, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks, guys.